Welcome to the Demystifying Technology Podcast from the MacLaurin Group.
Typically, you go through the due diligence process. What the world of private equity?
Right. Can't wait. Demystify it.
You keep hearing that you shouldn't store passwords in clear text. Why though? What does that actually mean? And what are the risks? Jim and Alan discuss this thorny issue, provide some insights as to what is what, and how you can easily rectify this.
So, welcome to another exciting episode of Demystifying Technology. I'm here with Alan Williamson. This is Jim Headley, and I can't believe what we are here to discuss today. When you proposed this topic, I'm like, Whiskey Tango, the Foxtrot. Do we still have people storing passwords, logins and passwords in plain text in databases?
We do, and in some cases, some very big names doing such heinous crimes.
So there has, well, I say that, and I question the sanity of even having this conversation. I know that there have been some very high-profile recent exposures, most recently in your native land, I believe.
Yes, it's galling that still in 2019 we're still having this conversation that people are storing clear text passwords. And the recent one was in the UK, Virgin Media, which is a large ISP, got found out effectively when a user attempted to retrieve their password, and Virgin Media not only helped them with this, but actually physically posted it to them in the mail, written down what their password was. I mean, wow.
Thank you. That is thorough and so helpful.
And then their Twitter account tried to justify this behaviour by saying, but it's illegal to open up anybody's mail, so it was safe. It's illegal to hack into anybody's system in the first place, but wow. So yeah, my native people didn't do me any pride there whatsoever.
So I would expect that we will no longer see state troopers on the interstate monitoring speed because everybody knows it's illegal and therefore everybody will obey the speed limit. Well, that works out well. It's the honor system for everything from this point forward. Did you hear that, world? So let's talk about what your expectations are relative to password storage.
So when we think about password storage, what we're really doing at that point in the game is storing probably a username and a password in the database to authenticate somebody into our system. So when somebody approaches our website, our application, our mobile app, they put in their email address, whatever it is, and we've got to authenticate that they are indeed who they are. So you've got to be able to store that some way to be able to know that the password that you're entering is indeed the password that you set. So from that perspective, in these sort of instances, the most basic way of doing that is actually storing the password in readable text as you typed it in the database. Mm-hmm. That makes it a little bit more unsecure, as it were, because anybody that's got access to that database can actually read that password.
So I understand, when you talk about the Virgin Media exposure and the fact that their policy allows them to now send to you a freaking password, your password,
yes,
in an email. What's the big deal? I mean, if I have a database, I'm locking this thing down, I have limited access. If I put policies in place that say, we shouldn't be sending freaking emails with plain text passwords in it, what's the big deal?
Well, the big deal is that, yes, you have locked it down, but you've probably got other people in your organisation that can access that data as well. And the other problem is we're dealing with humans here. And humans are probably the most laziest species we can probably think about. We like the path of least resistance, and we will generally reuse our passwords in many different organisations because it's easy for us. And we get into that memory muscle of our fingers just know which keys to type very quickly. And we generally haven't got into the habit of using password managers yet. So ultimately, we probably are reusing our passwords, and we probably are not treating our passwords with the respect that we need. So in that case, we kind of need to make sure that our vendors that are holding our passwords are going to take the responsibility that we, as consumers, are probably not yet stepping up to.
So it's not just the high-profile organizations that are running into this issue. I know we've seen it ourselves from time to time. When we look into an organization's data, we will find this. What would you typically advise organizations that are smaller in nature as to how they approach that?
There is the old adage that the most secure door is the door that doesn't exist. It's just a wall. So in our world, if you can get out of the password business altogether, then you can't be held responsible for leaking a password because you don't have one to leak. So to that end, you want to be able to authenticate your users using a third-party service such as Amazon's Cognito or Auth0, which allows you to effectively, if you've gone to a screen and you can sort of log in either with your Facebook, your Google, or your Salesforce, or your LinkedIn type profile, that's the sort of type of services that you want to be looking at. And it's very easy to integrate that type of service now into your application. And it makes it easier for the consumer because they've only got one password or one authentication system to worry about. So whether you're using your Google, your Microsoft OC365 one, or your Salesforce login, it doesn't matter. The point is that you just need to know that that user is the user that they think they are, as opposed to what access they've got. That's a different problem. But fundamentally, get out of that business.
Given that, I really do need to manage my own authentication. So how do I go about doing that?
Yeah, there are still systems out there where it's going to be a little bit tricky or hard, maybe legacy systems, you don't have access to various code, etc., where it is just easier to manage your own username and password system. So in that case, now you've got to take a little bit of care about how you're physically going to be storing the password. So this would be the times where you would start to think about hashing or salting your passwords. What does that really mean? It means that you basically take the password that the user typed in, you run effectively some mathematical formula on that password that then comes out with effectively a number. And that number is unreversible, i.e. I can't start with that number, run the same mathematical program on it, and get your password back out again. Okay, that's what's called hashing, and there's many different hashing algorithms. So effectively, you would type in your password, which would be, well, we know your password is password 123. It's easy for you to remember. You know.
Yeah. No, I have to have now. It's password 123 exclamation point because I have to have freaking special characters.
See, now you're tricking the trick.
I know.
That is what makes you a security genius. So by us taking that password 1 exclamation mark, we would run it against this hashing algorithm. We'd come out with maybe like either a 64 character string or a 32 character string, depending on the hashing algorithm, and it would just look like gobbledygook, just gobbledygook. So the next time you came into our website and you typed in password 123 exclamation mark, we would run the exact same mathematical hashing algorithm on it, and we'd be looking to make sure that we got the same number back out the other side. So that means now that when I look at my database, I'm not seeing real passwords. I'm seeing all these gobbledygook, big, dirty ass strings, and I can't reverse engineer them if I choose my hashing algorithm correctly.
So how is the hashing algorithm customizable? So you can go in or is it just here's 70 odd hashing algorithms that are out there that you as an organization could choose from and apply?
Yes, there are many standard hashing algorithms out there like SHA-256, MD5, which is a very old one and it's a hackable one in that it can be reversible. But fundamentally, you can make hashing algorithms a little bit more robust by using something called salting. So just like you would salt a dish to give it that little extra taste, that little difference from the last time you made it, you can do the same thing with this. So that means that if I was to take your password, I would augment it with some other data that's only unique to you. So that way, your algorithm is definitely unique from everybody else's. So a common example would be taking the username that you use, combining that with the password in some sort of way, either putting it in the front and back or even just mixing the characters all together, and then running the hashing algorithm on that. So that makes it very hard for me I need two pieces of information to be able to reverse engineer that salting algorithm. And this is why sometimes on websites, and you get a feel whether the company is salting or not, by if you go to your website and it asks you to change the password or you put in your new password, if it doesn't ask you to update any other pieces of information, chances are they're not salting it.
Gotcha.
Right? But if they ask you to confirm your login profile, or if you change your username or you change your email address, but they don't let you change your password, or they don't need you to change your password,
then they're not salting.
They're not salting, or they're using some other salting possible. But that's usually the key that it's there.
Wow, I'm so much more knowledgeable in curing passwords with salt than I ever thought I would be. So this makes it all secure then, right? I don't need, after I've done that, you've got hashing and salting, I never need to worry about it again.
No.
Why?
It just reduces the attack surface a little bit.
Man.
Right, I know. There's
Where's
no
magic bullet?
There is no magic bullet. And here in this world, basically what you've reduced is people hacking into your database so that there's no easy information hanging around,
right?
Effectively, right? There's nothing that's, if I gain access to 1 million records of your database, now I've got access to 1 million passwords that I can now go and do some brute force attacks to your bank account or your mortgage account and all that sort of nonsense. So it just makes it a little bit harder,
right,
to do that sort of stuff.
Well, now everything you've described, it sounds like it's fairly standard operational procedure, right? It sounds like you're not reinventing the world by doing this. It's a well-trodden path to making sure that you don't have your passwords out there in plain text. Why isn't everybody doing this? I mean, it seems fairly fundamental.
Well, here is in the thing. So I think there's a lack of knowledge and maybe a little bit of fear with respect to this stuff. But if one was to look at the code of the physical insert statement, if you will, that goes into the database to change this stuff, it literally is wrapping it in a database function to make that hash. So the code that we're talking about here is maybe a 5-minute fix,
right,
at best. It's a line or a function call inside your update statement or your insert statement to make this work. There is not a lot of effort here. So for any engineering group to come back and say, yeah, this would be a project, the CEO should be doing that dog tilting their head, looking at their owner, trying to figure out what have I just been asked to authorize here.
Right.
No, this is a very easy, low-hanging fruit thing to work out. Now, integrating a third-party service such as Cognito or Auth0, yes, a little bit more involved. You've got a user experience to update. Yes, that is. But if you're storing passwords today, if you're storing them in clear text, fixing that problem today is not an effort. Not an effort, and there is no excuse anymore for having your organization storing clear text passwords.
Well, I'm sold.
Marvelous.
All right. Well, thank you for once again enlightening us in the world of technologies, or the on the lines, as I like to say. I hope our listeners will tune in to our next podcast, coming to a podcast dealer near you.
Thank you very much.